How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the movie Castle, and I'm really excited today because we're going to be taking a look at all the Blu-rays and DVDs I got for July of 2025, and there's some pretty cool stuff in there, some interesting additions I've been looking for a bit. We have 17 items this time, 4 of which are Blu-rays, and out of those Blu-rays, a couple are pretty interesting entries in a really weird horror franchise. We'll cover that in just a second. Another fun thing with this haul is I actually got 4 part 2s. Yeah, kinda weird. I happen to be finding these cool things, and 4 of them just happen to be number 2s in bigger series, so that's pretty cool as well. Anyway though, without further ado, I'm gonna switch to the close-up camera. I'll show you guys all the Blu-rays and DVDs and say a little bit about them. Some cool stuff in there, so without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at all the Blu-rays and DVDs I got for July of 2025. We're gonna start off with the Blu-rays, and we have a pretty interesting item to open us up with. This is a Scream Factory double feature of Ghost House and Witchery. Scream Factory used to do these double features all the time. They don't so much anymore, but they still are pretty cool, and I love seeing these hand-painted posters for the movie. Some really cool and macabre imagery with this mouth getting sewn shut and her floating with the electricity there. That's pretty cool. But these two are actually really appropriate to be on a double pack because they're secretly part of a series. Ghost House was also known as La Casa 3, and Witchery was also known as La Casa 4. And I guess a quick explanation of that: when Sam Raimi's Evil Dead went over to Italy, it was retitled La Casa, which simply translates to the house. And same with Evil Dead 2, La Casa 2. However, the Italian distributors wanted to make some more money off the series, so they thought, hey, let's get other movies that have a haunted house element and just keep putting more movies in here and just make some unofficial sequels. So La Casa 3 all the way up to part 7 are all a bunch of random other movies that some distributor just decided should be sequels to the Evil Dead. That's kinda funny. Flip it to the back and we get to learn a little bit about the movies. It brings up La Casa right here, and they kind of go with that. Ghost House and Witchery, a duplex of doom brought to you from Scream Factory. And it sounds like the first one is about some people who explore an abandoned house and encounter this little girl with her clown doll. And in the second one, we actually have David Hasselhoff and Linda Blair, and they're on an island resort when they get shut in from a storm. Both the movies are on one disc, but behind the disc we actually get some promotional art. That's a pretty cool background design there. But I don't just have La Casa 3 and 4 for you guys. I actually also picked up La Casa 5, and it has this special limited edition slipcase that retitles the movie to Evil Dead 5. A really cool thing that Severin did there. But slide it out of the case, and we can see the standalone title, Beyond Darkness. Really cool poster with the cross keeping this ghost at bay. If we flip it to the back, the slipcase is pretty minimal. The under artwork shows all the special features and the plot summary. Basically, you get this killer that was executed and is now haunting the house of this reverend, and we get some special features and some artwork from the movie. Crack it open. We get the movie on Blu-ray, we get this fun little book, and if we open the booklet, it talks about track listings because the second disc behind the booklet there is actually the movie's soundtrack on CD. That's pretty fun. Slide that back in, close it up, So yeah, I was able to find the Blu-ray releases for La Casa 3 through 5. I will say there are 2 more after that. La Casa 6 and 7 are actually House 2 and 3, hoping to pick those up soon. Anyway, the next Blu-ray we have is the remake of The Eye with Jessica Alba. Recently, over the past few months, I've been finding random entries in the Eye franchise, and I thought, hey, I already have the remake on DVD, but why not do the upgrade while we're picking up a few of these? I'll probably binge the series pretty soon. But flip it to the back, and it talks about how Jessica Alba went through experimental underground surgery because she was blind, but after she gets her new eyes, she starts seeing things. We get a bit of bonus features there, but underneath we can see the second disc is actually the digital copy of the film. Yeah, I remember when they used to do that, have the second disc be the digital download instead of just a random piece of paper in some app. And there's the 2-disc. I love how they have different art. But yeah, I remember this being okay, but I haven't seen it in a while. After that, the last Blu-ray, found this on clearance for $2. Channel 13, a Blu-ray of a thought-to-be-lost shot-on-video anthology horror film from Mark Polonia. It's always cool to see films that were really lost and hard to find get a good release, and we get some fun painted artwork on the front. Mark Polonia has made a few duds over the years, not gonna lie. I'm hoping this one's good. Inspired by the Amicus anthologies and Creep Show. Crack it open, and the disc is a zoomed-in version of the front. So that's 5 movies on 4 Blu-rays, and after that, let's move into the DVDs. Start off with a new DVD I bought, and that is The Rule of Jenny Penn. This is a Shudder movie. Again, major props to Shudder for putting their stuff out on DVD. But we have Geoffrey Rush and John Lithgow in this movie, and there's John Lithgow staring at you with a creepy little baby doll. Apparently in this movie, the characters are in a retirement home, and John Lithgow likes to mess with people with his creepy baby, and he has a game he plays called The Rule of Jenny Penn, which apparently over the course of the movie gets darker and darker and more disturbing. Slide it out, under artwork is the same as the over, crack it open, and there's the disc and the Shudder ad. Put that down, and let's move on to a DVD I stumbled across in a used media store, and that is Trick or Treat with Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, I actually stumbled across this just a few days after Ozzy's passing, so a very appropriate pull. However, from what I gather, they're not actually the stars of the movie. They're just, featured real-life rock and rollers playing a few parts. The back talks about how there's this kid who's like a rock and roller, and he finds like the only copy of an unreleased album, but when he plays it backwards, it like summons demons or something, and he has to stop them before Halloween. And if we crack it open, there's the disc with the cover image, but rearranged from Platinum. Yeah, this one got a new Blu-ray not too long ago, and one thing I do like about the new Blu-rays of obscure stuff is all these fun old DVDs make their way into the used media shops, and I get to snag them up for a lot cheaper and easier than if I were trying to find them earlier. So cool that that got a Blu-ray, because now I get this. After that, we have a full moon movie, but it's not just any full moon movie, it's Full Moon #1. That's pretty cool, the very first thing they ever made. And this one is Mansion of the Doomed. Love this cool painting with her running and screaming there. What happens is so horrifying we can't even hint at it in this poster. Yeah, I think you are hinting at it, but okay. But flip it to the back and it talks about how after a car wreck, a girl was left blind, and her father starts to do these experiments to get her sight back. Unfortunately, they tend to involve stealing body parts from living people, and it appears that we actually have Lance Hendrickson in this movie, so that's pretty cool. Oh, and effects from Stan Winston. Crack it open, and there's the disc, which is the painting, but in all blue. Slide that over there, And moving on, I have one of those Midnight Movies double feature, Boris Karloff in Voodoo Island and The Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake. I always really love these things. The Midnight Movies were such a great way to put out a bunch of old obscure films, especially horror, and I always like to get the double feature versions. There's a lot of the single ones too, but the double features are always the funner way to collect them. Flip it over, and it talks about how in Voodoo Island, Boris Karloff is stranded with a group of people on this island and encounters some zombies, apparently, and Karloff is actually the hero in that movie, it sounds like. And the other one, it talks about how there's this guy who apparently is dealing with some sort of family curse and actually has the skulls of his ancestors. Sounds pretty crazy and out there. Crack it open and they're on a flipper disc, one movie per side. But yeah, great to add to my Full Moon collection and great to add to my Midnight Movies collection. After that, I have a bunch of movies that are actually part 2s in their franchises. Kinda weird that this happened, but hey, let's look at a bunch of part 2s, I guess. The first one I've wanted for a while, A Return to Salem's Lot from the Walner Archive collection. This is actually pretty cool. The original Salem's Lot was a made-for-TV miniseries, a very early Stephen King adaptation, and here we get a blue version inspired by the original poster, and we can see the town down there. And on the back we get some pictures, and it reminds us that the director of this movie is actually Larry Cohen, who made a bunch of cool cult films like It's Alive and Q the Winged Serpent and Maniac Cop. So cool to see Larry Cohen get to do a sequel to a Tobe Hooper Stephen King movie. I saw this a while ago. I thought it was pretty good. Obviously the first is better, but this is still pretty fun. Crack it open and there's the disc. And the sad thing with these Walner Archives is they are burner disc. The idea with the archive collection is they would just take all the movies they had, and if someone wanted one, they would burn them whenever someone asked. So yeah, burner disc aren't the best, but hey, at least we got it out in some way. The next part 2 we have is House of the Dead 2. If you guys don't know, the first House of the Dead movie is such a goofy, fun, stupid movie. It was inspired by the old light gun arcade games, but they really were trying to be big and over the top, and it came out to be a really good cheese fest. I really love the first House of the Dead movie, so I'm hoping that part 2 is at least partially as fun as the first one. Have not seen it yet. I reviewed part 1 on my channel just a little bit ago, and I can't wait to crack this thing open. Flip it to the back, and it talks about how this movie takes place in a college campus when the outbreak happens, and we get these police officers going in to try to save people. And there's the disc where they actually gave us 2 faces this time, and there's the insert image. Actually crack this open, we get a nice little article written in there, and some more pictures on the back. The next part 2 is pretty fun. Boogeyman 2, the director's cut. Now this is unrelated to that new Boogeyman Stephen King movie that came out. The original Boogeyman was about like a haunted mirror, and it was okay. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I had a 5-movie pack that had Boogeyman and Return of the Boogeyman, and then the 3 new movies, because they made a trilogy of newer movies as well. But for whatever reason, that multi-pack didn't have Boogeyman 2 in it, and this is the first time I've ever seen it out in the wild, and glad to pick up the movie that was missing from that multi-pack. So now I have all 6, I should probably dive into those. Flip it to the back and it talks about how they take the girl from the first movie and they're actually like trying to make a movie about the first movie, and there's like apparently a Hollywood party or something. Sounds crazy and self-referential, and they say, yeah, we did this plot years before Scream. Anyway, crack it open and we get a shiny disc there. Up next, I found a really fun release of a really cool movie, and that is the I Love the 80s release of Friday the 13th Part 2. This is pretty fun. I think it was MTV or something was doing an I Love the 80s series, and that inspired them to put out these re-releases of a bunch of classic 80s movies with this funky border around them. Flip it to the back. We all know Friday Part 2, but that's the first one with Jason in it, as the main killer, that is. We got these little doors on the spine. But the cool thing about the I Love the 80s version, it's the same disc there as the standard non-deluxe version of these DVDs, but it actually features a CD inside with 80s music. So yeah, we get Lips Like Sugar, Chains of Love, Need You Tonight, and Take Me On. And I am curious if other movies have different 80s songs in them, or if they're all just these same four. But slide it out, there's the disc, I Love the 80s and yellow. I will say you have to kind of hold the CD down a little bit because it gets a little hard to close this thing. But yeah, that's the last of the part 2s. Alright, moving on to the next item, and this one is a little bit unrelated to what we had been doing before, but you know what, it's something I like, I'm gonna pick it up. And that is Volume 5 of Speed Racer. Now, Speed Racer, obviously, really fun, classic anime, and the Mach 5 is, of course, a really cool car. Nowadays, you can buy a complete series collection, but I was picking this up back in the day, and I had 4 of the 5 volumes, so I finally got around to picking up the last one. And part of the reason why I didn't get it sooner was because of this little plate here. We can actually crack open the slipcase. We get a nice double image there, but we can pull out the license plate from the front, so that's pretty cool. And without the license plate in there, that's what the front looks like. But I had seen so many that were either missing the plate or didn't have the slipcase at all, and I knew I wanted to get the license plate version for this one, so glad to finally pick it up. Been hunting that for a while. There's the back, and you can see it has the final 8 episodes on it, the last episode being episode 52, Race Around the World Part 2. Slide it out. Under artwork is the same as the over. Crack it open, and there's the disc. Moving on after that to a section I like to call semi-extraneous purchases. These are movies that I have in another form, but I had to pick up these releases, so technically Friday Part 2 counted like that too, but I wanted to put that in the Part 2 section. Anyway, one thing that was super rare that I've been looking for a while, and I was finally so excited to pick these up, that is the single issue releases of Halloween 4 and 5. Finding these things on single DVDs can get pretty hard. The movies themselves you can find on like multi-packs usually pretty easy, but boy, I did want these singles. The Divamax special editions, both of them have this orange color on them, like a sepia almost. There's the back of part 4. Crack it open and there's the inserts. Back of the insert is the poster. And we also get this, a free ticket to Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. That's pretty fun. In the back of that even lists which theaters you can go and see the movie at. Slide that back in. Slide that into. And then we move on to part 5, where we get Danielle Harris there in The Knife. She was the original version of Laurie. Sad that she got recast in part 6. But yeah, part of the dream would be to have these get signed at a convention by her. That would look really sweet, especially if she had like an orange Sharpie or something. There's the back of 5. And there's the disc. We also have chapter selections. Also have that movie ticket, and there's the poster for part 5 there. Slide that back. But yeah, really glad to finally get these two. They are easily the hardest to find on single issue DVDs, and they'll be really cool up there on the shelf. It is also worth noting that I did have them on Blu-ray but not DVD before, so it is a new format for these. Also, a new format, something I only had on Blu-ray, is Amityville: A New Generation. I have a pretty big collection of Amityville movies, both official and non-official, but after part 4, they get kind of hard to find, so I was really glad to pick this one up. I have one for 1992, It's About Time, that also kind of looks like this. Flip it to the back and we can see a little bit about it and some pictures. And there's the disc, same as the front. So yeah, glad to pick up a rare Amityville DVD. After that, the last thing I have to show you guys, I saw this in a used media shop for a while and I finally decided to pick it up, and that is Eli Roth's Cabin Fever. I had this in a multi-pack with parts 1 and 2 as well as The Descent, and I decided I finally needed to break that out of the multi-pack, and I also need to find the other 2 Cabin Fever movies, so I'll be looking out for those in the future. But this was a pretty fun movie. A bunch of people are isolated in a cabin with a disease going around, and it gets pretty gory and over the top, and I love this hidden skull in the trees. Flip it to the back and we get to see some pictures from the movie, as well as some bonus features, including 5 commentaries and a director's short film. And crack it open, there's the disc there. So yeah, that's all the ones I got for July of 2025, and yeah, some pretty cool stuff. 3 movies from the La Casa series, 4 total Blu-rays, 4 total part 2s, that final volume of Speed Racer I needed, and really, it's so great to finally pick up Halloween 4 and 5 on DVD. That's super cool. So yeah, another really good haul. Can't wait to see what's in store for the next month. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my monthly movie hauls playlist that I've actually done for well over 2 years now, so if you want to see a bunch more stuff kind of like this, feel free to click there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.